So thank you everyone for having me here and good evening. I'm delighted to be with you all this evening. As I just mentioned, my name is Lara. I'm a conference interpreter. My main working languages are French and English. So the main focus of today will be the Paris 2024 Olympics. I will be sharing a couple of facts, my two top events I absolutely adored watching, and I will end on a personal note from Paris 2024 as a fairly new mother. He's 2 years old, so I can't really say I'm a new mother anymore. But let's get right into it. Now, a couple of facts about Paris 2024. You probably all know, but Paris 2024 had a very clear mission. And this was to provide equal opportunities for all. Now, the objective was to have this historical 50-50 gender split across all sports. So this meant there was exactly the same number of men and women per sport. Now, going through a couple of facts and figures that were released by the Olympics, I believe they actually reached 49.99% of this gender split. But nonetheless, this still marks a significant milestone for gender equality on a global stage. One remarkable example also of this gender equality that we're seeing here on the global stage for specifically women was the women's marathon, which for the first time closed the Olympic Games. Now, I don't know if you know, historically, the Olympic Games, it's always the men's marathon that closes the Games. On this occasion, we saw Sifan Hassan, who won gold and completed the marathon with an Olympic record of 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 55 seconds. Now, the seconds make all the difference because she beat the silver medalist by 3 seconds. So the seconds are extremely important in this case. And quite interestingly, Sifan's running technique, she starts, I would say, fairly slow, and she always ends up in the middle throughout the whole race. And then by the end of the race, she sprints. So this specific one, the marathon, she sprinted the last 200 meters, which is absolutely incredible. Imagine you've just run 40 kilometers, you reach the last 200 meters and you sprint it. It's absolutely incredible. On top of that, Sifan also competed in the 5,000 meter and 10,000 meter, for which she won bronze on both occasions. She didn't stop there. She also made a very, very powerful statement during the medal ceremony, where she wore a hijab. And this was particularly significant given the controversy in France surrounding the hijab. This was very tied to the country's stance on state secularism. Oh no. Okay. Following that, I'd also like to mention here that Paris 2024 introduced new sports. This added more excitement, made the games more appealing to the younger generation. So here, of course, I'm talking about breakdancing, which made its Olympic debut. Yet again, some of you may have heard of breakdancing and followed breakdancing, maybe all the controversy around it with the famous Australian athlete called Reagan. Her routines were very controversial. I'll now leave it down to you whether you enjoyed her routine or not, as she received a lot of backlash online. And then, of course, we also saw the return of skateboarding, climbing, and surfing. Now, moving to Paris 24 and interpretation. The actual part of interpreting was, the part of applying to become part of the interpreting team was quite interesting. This started about a year and a half ago, and very much in line with maybe if anybody knows French bureaucracy, it was quite a long process and very administrative. However, we managed, for the ones who did apply, it was very, very interesting process, and I learned a lot even through the application process. And once I received the final confirmation I was part of the team, I was absolutely over the moon. I myself, as Linda just mentioned, I absolutely love sports. And to be part of the interpreter team was really a dream come true to me. Now, for those who don't know me, and Linda also just mentioned this, I'm a former amateur boxer, and my partner also was a former amateur boxer. He's now turned coach. On top of that, he recently opened his own Muay Thai and boxing gym here in Southeast London. I no longer box, I no longer compete, I still train, but I have really found my therapy. I find it extremely therapeutic to run. And I recently completed the London Marathon. The London Marathon was honestly, I would say, a personal challenge for me after I had Nolan, my baby. I felt a bit as if I was losing my identity as a sportswoman, and I needed this challenge. I think once I completed the marathon, I realized I wasn't losing my identity. I was just gaining a new identity. This is more a bit off piece from what we're talking about today, but I still want to tie in a bit with motherhood, working, and identity, as they all sort of come together as a person, because this is, in fact, my sort of new identity, I believe. And I will come back to it. But now I'm digressing. Let's go back to Paris 2024. You may also have unforgettable moments throughout the whole of Paris 2024. I had two unforgettable events who were also record-breaking events. My top one, which I absolutely loved, is the Swedish pole vaulter called Armand Mondo Duplantis. He already won at Tokyo 2020. And he was a gold medalist. Yes, oh no. There we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, one.
In Paris 2024, he wanted to take this one step further. Armand Mondo Duplantis had set a number of world records, and he was really hard to beat. The only person he had to beat was himself. So every time he would find himself at a new meet, so a new event, he would just have to break a new record and go beyond his own limits. And this is what he was looking to do at Paris 2024. He did set a new world record at Paris 2024 and an Olympic record by clearing by 6.25 meters. But when I was watching this event, what truly made it even more special was the camaraderie on the field. Even when Mondo failed his initial attempt to record the height, his competitors, so the bronze and silver medalists, continued to cheer him. They encouraged him. So you could see this spirit, this team spirit, even though they're actually technically competing against each other, which I absolutely loved. And to top that, the stadium was cheering him on, which was absolutely beautiful to see. And once he did manage to go for that record, he made history, and the stadium went absolutely mad. I'm not entirely sure if any of you watched that on television, but when he did break that record, he stood straight and he took that pose from that Turkish shooter. So just that one shoot, one pff, just to show how easily he could actually jump 6.25 meters, which is at the same time maybe a tad arrogant, but at the same time he does deserve it, because he did, well, just break a world record and Olympic record. The second event, which I really enjoyed watching, was from an uneven bars gold medalist, so a gymnast. Her name is Kaylia Nemour. She's represents Algeria, but originally born in France. The reason why she decided to represent Algeria is that she actually had a couple of issues with the French Gymnastics Federation. They did not clear her for competition after a knee surgery. So once that happened, she decided to represent Algeria, as her dad is Algerian. This means that once she did win that gold, she became the first gymnast from any African nation to win an Olympic gold medal. So there you go. Those are my two top events, which I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed watching. You probably also have yours. And now to circle back to more my personal note as to motherhood and maybe how I actually lived personally the Olympics. The first week when I went to work at the Olympics, I took my family, so my mom, my dad, and my toddler Nolan. What we decided to do with my partner John, it was to do maybe a bit like Paris 2024, this similar split, 50-50 split. I would have Nolan for the first week and a half, and then Nolan would come back to London, and then John, my partner, will look after him.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an ad. It's coming.
Yeah.
Whilst he was in Paris, Nolan absolutely enjoyed eating so many croissants. We had great fun, even though it was actually quite tiring because I was working full time as well as looking after him. But I didn't really I'm complaining a bit now, but I did enjoy it a lot, spending time with him whilst I was there. One thing I did notice during my time there was the lack of accessibility in Paris transport. It may be the metros that we took, but when I took a metro to go, for example, to Hôtel de Ville, which is in the city centre of Paris, I had a hard time locating the correct lifts or finding some escalators because, of course, I had a buggy, so I needed to take him up and down. And this made me think also how people with disabilities, how would they be able to go around Paris? I'm of course comparing here to London. When I go to London, I take the tube here in London. It's very easy actually to go from one platform to the other. All you have to do is take a lift that takes you to another one. But yet again, maybe I was not taking the correct method of transport. Which brings me to another point from Paris 2024. Yes, the atmosphere was absolutely great. However, they did do something which I qualify as tad cheeky. They increased the fares, so the metro fares and the bus fares. Usually, if you want to take a bus or a metro in Paris, that would cost you €2. But for the entire duration of the Olympics, so from the end of July until now, because the Paralympics have just ended, they increased it by €2. So for you to get one ticket to go around Paris would cost you €4. So they doubled the price of a ticket, which I find that was a bit cheap. And that also, when I was speaking to Uber drivers, did have an impact on tourism, as well as Parisians. Parisians usually tend to leave Paris during summertime. So July and August, Paris tends to be deserted because all the Parisians go either to the sea or elsewhere. This did not encourage Parisians to stay. It actually encouraged them to leave because their own city was becoming far too expensive. So this is more a small criticism in light of a wonderful event that brought so many people together to enjoy and have this sporting spirit together. Now, coming back to motherhood and to Nolan, once my partner came to pick him up and brought him back to London, the first days were very hard. I did have a hard time. A lot of people will not understand this unless you are a mother yourself. The first night, actually, in fact, I took his car, his little van. He had a Postman Pat van. I put it next to me and I slept with it. I know this sounds very sad, but this is how I felt on the first night. But what I found absolutely wonderful whilst I was out there with the interpreting team is that I received so much support from the other mothers on the interpreting team because they understood how I felt, which was absolutely wonderful to really feel that type of support. And when I come back to that identity crisis that I had during when he was first born, and I had to absolutely have this challenge, it really reminds me that I did not lose an identity. I created a new identity. Well, I didn't create it. Something new was added to my identity, and it's absolutely wonderful. So on that positive note, as well as the Olympics, I hope you all enjoyed this speech, and I hope that I was able to multitask efficiently and that the oh no's and trucks did not disturb you too much and interrupt your interpretation. And thank you so much.